Welcome to another episode of Pro Wrestling Society. And um, for this week's episode, I'm going to discuss a couple of topics such as indie wrestling and a whole bunch of other topics. I'm sorry that my other two partners aren't here today, so it's just going to be me. And let's get this started. Okay, my thoughts on indie wrestling. I don't really watch a lot of it. I watch um occasionally I'll watch some old matches or some recent matches, and honestly, it's it's not really my cup of tea because um it's like I said in my other episodes, indie wrestling has the same problem in regards to not selling, no ring psychology, and no characters, and a bunch of stuff that just doesn't really suit my taste. I think some people might like it because it's it's uh it's just about moves um, and stuff in that regard, more of the technical aspects of wrestling. Um, and now, don't get me wrong, there are some really, really good indie wrestling matches that I've seen uh, in my life, but very few. Um, and they usually involved like some big name wrestlers. So um, I think the only indie wrestler that I might watch is Ruckus, or somebody on who's not that famous. But other than that, there's really nothing about indie wrestling that appeals to me as it would other forms of wrestling. Not so it's more of a hit or miss. Um, it can be very, very good, or it can be terrible. And so it really depends on the wrestler and whatnot. I don't know why fans seem to think that it's inferior, because it's not. I mean, a lot of wrestlers actually came from the indie scene before they moved up to the more mainstream promotions, and uh, they still go there occasionally, and some of them after they're retired or are at the point of retiring, they wrestle on the indie circuit. So I'm not really sure about the whole deal on why people don't like indie wrestling or don't even give it a chance. I mean, it's just another form of wrestling. The only difference is that it's in a smaller venue and doesn't get that many cameras, if that makes sense. Like sometimes uh, you nobody films it, so you can't really watch it. That's a downside to it, unless they have some streaming service or whatever. Then yeah, but those are just my thoughts on indie wrestling. Let me know uh, yours in the comment section below. Now we move on to martial arts and pro wrestling. You might see martial arts in certain wrestling styles like lucha libre or the Japanese strong style, things of that sort. So probably familiar with, you know, chokeholds and stuff like that. Um, don't really have a problem with it. Um, I think it's pretty creative the way wrestlers use certain chokeholds. Like I know Undertaker took some Brazilian jiu-jitsu and he uses the triangle chokehold and other similar moves, and it really worked out for him. But I think there comes a point when wrestlers become too technical with it, so they start replacing it with uh, they make it look more like a combat sport type of MMA UFC fight rather than an actual professional wrestling match. And I feel like there should be a huge difference between pro wrestling and combat sports, because combat sports deals with straight up knockouts and submissions and stuff like that. So um, when you start making it too technical and focusing on techniques and stuff like that, then it just takes away from the entertainment aspect of it and the ring psychology and selling and all that stuff. And it ends up looking either boring or bland or just something, it just doesn't look right. So I feel like martial arts and wrestling should be used to tell a story, but it shouldn't be the end all be all in professional wrestling. And which leads me to my other point of shoot style wrestling or strong style, whichever one you want to call it. Um, I'm not particularly a big fan of it. I've seen maybe like, I don't know, one match or maybe two, and it's good, but I think the problem that I have with it is that wrestlers tend to well, see, when they hit each other stiff, it doesn't look good on camera. In my opinion, it doesn't look very intense, and that's what really makes wrestling entertaining, when you can make it intense and you can actually sell the moves and actually build up drama to it. Then that's what makes it really exciting and stand out. And so I have nothing against strong style wrestling. I mean, as long as it's done right. Um, Unfortunately, I think it's died out, and um, so I don't know what they do in Japan anymore. So not too familiar with it, but yeah, I feel like if you um, if you're chopping each other up and getting too technical and not actually show character or fighting spirit, then it's not really going to interest me much. And that's pretty much all I had to say on this subject. Let me know what you think um, on indie wrestling, martial arts, or anything that I talked about in this episode. Don't forget to like this video, comment, and subscribe. And with that, have a great day.